This video came at the perfect time because I really want to take you guys on the journey with me as I grow and I elevate and I learn new things about myself. But one of the biggest things that I'm continuously talking about in all of my videos, especially if you're trying to get to your highest, most feminine self, is trauma. Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you for all my returning subscribers. For any new subscribers, hi, how are you? I am your sister who is here to help you elevate on this journey, inside, outside, whatever it may be. I just want you to be your best self, and today we're going to be talking all things when it comes to trauma and why it is so important to heal your traumas. So stay tuned for this video. Healing trauma is something that affects everything. I think that a lot of people are walking around traumatized and have no idea, or they're holding on to a lot of different things that are showing up in their life now and they have no idea that it's trauma, but it is. I'm so embarrassed to even admit this, but I'm all about being honest because this is also a journey for myself, which is why I'm taking you guys on the journey with me. But I had been meeting with an apostle because I am getting deeper in my faith. I am a Christian. I've always been a Christian, but I just feel like I could do better. I could figure out things about myself that maybe I can't see. And so I've been meeting with him, and on the first meeting that we had, this man looked me in my eyes and told me, "You're very masculine." And for anyone who follows all of my content, I'm the queen of self-help. I'm the queen of growing, elevating, doing everything externally, internally to be the best, most feminine version of myself. And hearing this critique and feedback, I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, I mean, you look good, like you look very feminine, like you're put together, but there's something masculine inside of you that I'm feeling, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but like there's masculinity in you in a certain way that is like coming across a little aggressive. And I was like, As we work together and as I'm on the journey with him, I'm realizing that there were things about myself from my traumas as a child that were still affecting the way that I was communicating to this day. So that is why I want to have this conversation with you guys, because we can continuously strive to be the best version of ourselves, but if we are not healing those little things, those little traumas inside of us, we are just going to carry those over, and they are going to come out in certain ways and other people can see them that maybe we can't even see them ourselves. I want to give you 5 tips to figuring out and potentially healing your trauma outside of going to traditional therapy. For me, therapy didn't really work to healing my trauma. It honestly didn't work at all in anything that I needed. I'm a big advocate for therapy. One, if you can afford it and if it works for you. It just doesn't work for every single person. So I really want to give you guys ways that you can personally work on yourself so that you're not putting your fate in someone else's hands necessarily. So the first thing that you can do to start beginning to heal your trauma outside of going to a therapist or therapy is realizing that everything in your life is linked. So everything that you have done in your childhood or everything that you experienced in your childhood is now linked to your adulthood. So when you do certain things in life, whether it be like a small tic that you have, whether it be the way that you react when someone does something specifically, it is all linked to something that happened to you before, and you were subconsciously just repeating whatever that program is. The first thing that you have to understand is whenever you have instinctual reactions to things, you need to understand that is linked to something. As humans, the easiest way for our body to work is in patterns. So you have to realize that our body wants the easiest fallback for whatever the reaction is, and that is going to be a pattern or a habit that you create. So these patterns that we've created, these are from things that have happened in our past. So right now, if you find yourself in a place where your patterns aren't necessarily getting you what you want or making you feel the best version of yourself, you have to look into your past. You have to look into your past behaviors in order to really understand why you are the way that you are right now. Understanding that everything from the past is linked to your present is the first step to understanding why you are the way you are, what traumas you might be holding on to, and things that you need to change, because you're going to have to reprogram that pattern in order to create a new future. So everyone, if you're looking at your past, if you're looking at your parents, you're looking at your grandparents, and you're realizing, wow, my mom is my grandmother. My grandmother is my great-grandmother, and it goes on forever and ever. It's because no one in that lineage has broken the pattern. So if you're the person right now who's feeling like, I need to break the same patterns that my mom was making and my grandmother was making, and I don't want to be like that, it's going to take actively changing something, understanding something from your past so that you can change it right now so that you can reprogram and recreate that new pattern. The first thing I really want you to do is I want you to sit down and I want you to make a list of all your patterns, of all your your triggers, of things that you subconsciously default to, the emotions that you're constantly having, you want to just write those all down because you want to be able to start recognizing them. Maybe your sister is constantly telling you, oh, you get so angry so quickly, or every time I bring up this, it triggers you and your response is this. Those are going to be your patterns. So I really want you to start evaluating the patterns and the triggers in your life, and I want you to write those down because that is going to be the starting point for where you're going to start reverse engineering and reverse looking into everything to understand why you have those triggers. I'm going to be using myself as an example. One of the patterns that I have, or one of the habits that I have, is I had this spirit of hyper independence. I had the spirit of hyper independence because it was a coping mechanism for me, because I am a child of divorce and I have really amazing parents, but no parents are perfect. When I went through this divorce as a kid, my coping mechanism was, okay, you have to take care of yourself. And granted, again, I had great parents, but every child compartmentalizes things differently. So my hyper independence comes from, oh, I feel like I can't rely on mother or father or whatever it may be. And that pushed itself into my adulthood. And it was something that I had to unpack, because where does this hyper independence comes from? It comes from a distrust of the people around you. So that was one of my triggers. That was one of my patterns, one of my habits that I didn't even know because it was so normal to me. I definitely believe that everyone should be able to be independent, but that hyper independence of not allowing people to open doors, not allowing people to help you, not allowing people to carry groceries, whatever it may be, that was something that I personally had to unpack and realize, oh my gosh, like that's a trauma response. That is something that I have to start reverse engineering. Where did that come from? And starting to go back into my past. So that is one of the things that I really think is important, is you need to start recognizing your triggers, recognizing your patterns, literally psychoanalyze yourself and say, why do I do every single thing the way that I do? To go even further, start looking at the things that you fear. Start looking at the things that bring you discomfort. I want you to start unpacking those things, because these are the things that are going to give you an indication for what may have happened to you or what you may feel like in the past that is creating this current self. That is a great place to start, and you're just really going to have to be real with yourself. You're going to have to start diving deep. So that goes into my next thing, which is you're going to need to start letting go of your ego. Your ego is the self-righteous mechanism inside of you that always wants you to be right. It wants you to be safe. It doesn't want you to feel discomfort. And when you have your ego up, it's kind of like a wall that you have up. So when someone criticizes you or someone gives you feedback, your ego's like, that person's not right. That person can't be right. And it's because your body wants to protect yourself. So through this investigation of yourself, I really want you to get vulnerable. I really want you to get soft. I really want you to take that defensiveness and that ego, and I want you to kick it to the side and leave yourself wide open, because this is the only way that you can really get inside and start moving things around. And when I say this, I know I'm like explaining it in like a physical way, but it's really like an emotional thing. I think a lot of people feel like they have to be hard, they have to be tough, they have to be strong. And again, these are all defense mechanisms for the things that we're trying to hide and protect on the inside of us. And the moment that you start to realize, oh my gosh, I'm living in a state of defensiveness because of something I'm experiencing inside, you're gonna be able to just open yourself up and really take a deep dive. Going back into where trauma even starts, like the first 8 years of our life is where our subconscious is formed. So a lot of your beliefs are subconsciously already created from 0 to 8 years old. So there was no control that you had from 0 to 8 years old. So that's why people have to work on their trauma, because no one willingly does things in their first 8 years of life because they don't have control of your life. Usually it's your parents who have control of you at that point, or whatever system, whether it's your grandparents, whoever you lived with, they are the ones forming this experience for you. So you really have no control. So from ages 0 to 8, I really want you to look at the things that you experienced. I really wanted you to look at your family life. I really want you to look at the things that were happening in school, because not everyone's trauma is like, oh, my parents were divorced. Oh, one of my parents died. That's not everybody's trauma. Some people's trauma is, I wasn't the popular kid at school from 0 to 8. And that actually has a deep effect and profound effect on the way that people act in the workplace, people act in their relationships. Or someone's is really wanted to play soccer and I got an injury at 7 years old, and for the rest of, my life, I haven't been able to play soccer. That is trauma. So everybody's trauma looks different. It doesn't have to be some really deep, dark, drastic thing, but it's just an experience that has imprinted on you in the way that you act now. For people who have experienced hurt from their parents, from their siblings, from their relatives, I really encourage you to start asking those people questions. If you can, if it's a safe place. For people who it's not a safe place, disregard this and, go wait for the next advice. But for me, because my parents are still in my life and I love my parents, I had to ask very uncomfortable questions and start asking them about their divorce. Why did they get divorced? What happened? What was I acting like when they were getting divorced? All of these little things, you need to address the people who are kind of the source of this discomfort or were around in that time period of your life, because when you're that young, you can't necessarily remember everything exactly the way that it was. And sometimes you need an explanation from these people. Now, if you're watching this video and you're this far in, I know that you actively want to heal yourself. I know that you actively want to take a stance and do something about the way that you are right now, even if you are a well-functioning human, because I consider myself a very well-functioning human. I consider myself on top of it, and there's still more work to be done. So this goes to show you that even if you think that you're a high-functioning human, even if you think that you've hit the pinnacle of whatever you want to be, there's always more work to be done, because it's only going to make you better. It's only going to make you softer. It's only going to make you more healed, which is just going to help to elevate you to that ultimate person that we ultimately want you to become, because that's the whole reason that I even have my channel, is to help you guys. So I really encourage you is have uncomfortable conversations. Have the uncomfortable question with your mother, with your father, with your sibling, with your uncle, with your aunt, wherever you feel like there was discourse when you were younger and maybe that person was part of that discourse. Start asking them questions. If you resent them, start having these conversations so that you can reopen whatever was there, so that you can heal it, so that you can release it, so that you can let go of it. A lot of people avoid their trauma, rightfully so. It's a sensitive point for a lot of people, or it's a point they're like, nah, I'm over it, whatever. It doesn't affect me. But it really does. It really does affect you. So I really encourage you, go beyond that line and transcend into a place where you're letting your ego go and you are just going to the people around you at that time and starting to have conversations so that you can hear another person's side, so that you can convey how you feel to the other person, and so that that wound is opened up and then hopefully resealed. And lastly, as I said through this whole thing, you're really gonna self-evaluate, but I want you to start making good connections and bad connections as far as who you are right now. I'll use myself as an example. One theme that I always say that I really need in relationships in life is I need stability. That is a word that I throw around so much. I'm like, oh, I need stability, I crave stability, I love stability, all these things. I used it as an excuse as to why I'm stressed, is because, oh, I really want to make sure that I'm stable. I really want to make sure I'm dating someone who's stable. I want to, all these things about stability. And I'm like, where does this come from? Why is this conversation being had? Why is this something that is like so important to me? And I had to look back into my childhood and being a product of divorce and living in so many different places. There was this sense of instability. However, as an adult, if you know me, I'm always choosing the most unstable path. Now, let me explain. I'm literally always choosing the most unstable path. I am the biggest risk taker. I am choosing this path of instability when I travel to different countries, when I am leaving my full-time job to do influencing, which is the most unstable thing a person can ever do in their entire life. Is pick a career that literally some people don't even view as a career, that you don't get paychecks for months at a time. Picking up and moving to a different state where I have no friends or family, that's not someone who craves stability. So I was doing all of these things that were subconsciously in contradiction of what I said that I craved and what I needed, and I needed to understand why. So one thing that I really learned through this process of healing my traumas and understanding myself better was that instability is actually my superpower. And so while I'm saying, oh, I want stability, I want this, I want that, what I was actually saying is that the biggest thing that I fear is actually the thing that I'm best at. It's actually the thing that fuels me. It's actually the thing that gets me everything that I want. So I want you guys to do this same exercise on yourself, as thinking of what is the thing that I'm constantly saying that I need, and why am I saying that I need it? Because sometimes what you think is your weakness is actually your superpower. It's actually your ability. Exploring and healing traumas is something that there's no right or wrong way to do it, because everyone's path is going to look slightly different. So the whole reason I even made this video was to show you that the path doesn't have to be this traditional, you go to therapy for X amount of time and you leave, and then healing your traumas is going to be for the rest of your life. It is something that you're going to be continuously doing. But I really wanted to share this video with you guys to help encourage you, one, to look inside of yourself and recognize that everybody has some form of trauma, and two, that these are ways that you can start asking yourself, looking at yourself, and figuring out what may be going on inside of myself that is giving this energy that might not even be me. I'm going to circle it back from the first thing I said with the apostle telling me, you know, like, you have a masculine energy about you. And it came from an unhealed place. It came from this place of hyper independence. It came from this place of thinking that I needed stability, and so I was stressed because I feel like I have to do XYZ, when it's really I need to sit in this instability and know that this is the right place for me, because this is actually my superpower. So as I'm going through this journey and I'm healing these different things, it is then having an impact on the way that I come off to other people. That your trauma can be making you feel really masculine, and it can make you feel really aggressive when you talk to people, because you're doing little things in the way you ask questions and the way you react that you're not even aware of. I really hope that this video touches and reaches the right people, and if that you guys are going through your elevation journey and you really want to actively work on your trauma, I really encourage you to sit and listen to these points and think about how you can better evaluate yourself. If you guys have any suggestions for future videos that you would like to see, don't forget to comment that below, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah.